Rain lashed against the marble steps of the federal courthouse, painting the sky in streaks of gray. Inside, the air was charged. Reporters pressed their faces to the glass doors, cameras flashing like lightning. Everyone had come for one man, Captain Ethan Cole. Once a decorated Delta Force commander, Ethan now stood accused of corporate espionage, fraud, and attempted murder. The prosecution claimed he'd sabotaged the operations of Atlas Dynamics, a billion-dollar defense company run by the ruthless billionaire, Victor Hawthorne. The evidence was damning. Security footage, financial records, and even a voice recording of Ethan threatening Victor. It was the scandal of the year. But what the world didn't know was that Victor had orchestrated it all. 2 years earlier, Ethan had left the military after a near-fatal mission in Syria. He came home to raise his 8-year-old daughter, Lily, after his wife died of cancer. Money was tight. PTSD haunted him at night. Still, he tried to stay strong, for Lily. When Victor Hawthorne's company offered him a consulting position in security operations, it seemed like a lifeline. At first, Victor treated Ethan like a protege. "You've seen things the rest of us only read about," he'd said, pouring them both a drink in his penthouse office. "With your skills and my resources, we can change national security forever." But beneath that charm, Victor hid a predator's heart. He wasn't just building defense systems, he was selling U.S. secrets to foreign clients, using his company as a front. Ethan discovered this by accident, while reviewing a confidential transmission that didn't match any authorized channel. He confronted Victor privately. "What is this?" Ethan had demanded, slamming the document on Victor's desk. Victor's expression didn't even flicker. "You're out of your depth, soldier. Walk away." Ethan didn't. And that was his mistake. 3 days later, his house was raided. His laptop, phone, and even Lily's tablet were seized. The FBI claimed they'd traced encrypted messages and bank transactions linking him to a cyber attack that cost the government millions. Ethan barely understood what was happening before the handcuffs clicked. Now, as he stood in court, wearing a cheap suit that didn't fit, he could feel every eye on him, seeing not a father, not a veteran, but a criminal. At the prosecution's table, Victor sat with his trademark smirk, whispering something to his attorney. He looked untouchable, pristine in his tailored suit, his cufflinks catching the light. "Captain Cole," the prosecutor began, pacing in front of the jury, "you served this country, didn't you? You were entrusted with the nation's most classified operations. So tell us, what made you betray that trust?" Ethan clenched his fists. "I didn't betray anyone." "Oh." The prosecutor lifted a folder. "Because the evidence says otherwise." He clicked a button. A recording filled the room, Ethan's voice, cold and angry. "If you don't stop, Victor, I'll destroy you and everything you've built." The jurors' faces hardened. Ethan wanted to scream. That recording was spliced, twisted. But his court-appointed attorney, Sandra Vega, leaned close and whispered, "Stay calm. Let me handle it." Sandra was one of the few who believed him. She'd been assigned to his case reluctantly, but once she dug deeper, things didn't add up. Victor's company had a private data vault that federal agents hadn't been allowed to search, citing national security. Every time she requested access, her motion was denied. Someone powerful was protecting Victor. After the day's hearing, Ethan sat alone in the holding cell. He thought of Lily, her dark curls, her missing front tooth, the way she whispered, "Daddy, don't let them take you away." He wanted to believe justice would prevail, but in Victor's world, justice was for sale. Then something unexpected happened. Sandra entered the cell block, her heels echoing on the concrete. She looked different, urgent, shaken. "Ethan," she said, pulling a file from her bag. "We just got something, an anonymous drop." Inside were photos. One showed Victor meeting in secret with a foreign arms dealer named Dmitry Sokolov, a man on the Interpol watch list. Another showed a bank transfer for $10 million to an untraceable offshore account, under a false name, E. Cole. "They're laundering the bribe money through an account in your name," Sandra whispered. "But whoever sent this didn't stop there. There's metadata attached to the transfer receipt. It originated from Hawthorne's private server." Ethan's pulse quickened. So someone inside his company leaked this. Or someone who wants him exposed, Sandra said. "Either way, this could turn everything around. But we need to verify it in court." The next day, as Victor took the stand as a witness for the prosecution, his performance was flawless. He painted himself as a victim, a man who had trusted Ethan, only to be betrayed by greed. He had access to sensitive data, Victor said smoothly. I treated him like family. But he tried to sell our defense algorithms. I had no choice but to report him. Sandra stood when he finished. Mr. Hawthorne, she began, her tone calm but sharp, you're known for your innovation in security software, correct? Victor smiled modestly. That's correct. In your company's internal systems, they're considered impenetrable. They are. Then explain how these files, she held up the photos, were leaked from your private server. Victor's face stiffened. I've never seen those before. Oh, I think you have. Sandra clicked a remote, projecting the images onto the courtroom screen. That's you, isn't it, meeting with Dmitry Sokolov in Zurich. The courtroom erupted in whispers. The judge called for order. Victor's attorney objected furiously, claiming the evidence was fabricated. But Sandra pressed on. And this, she said, pointing to the transfer record, was processed through an offshore account opened under my client's name, but from your own company's IP address. How do you explain that? Victor leaned forward, his mask cracking. You're accusing me of treason, Ms. Vega. I'm accusing you of framing an American hero, Sandra shot back. The judge ordered a recess while the court examined the new evidence. In the chaos, Ethan caught Victor's eyes across the room. For the first time, the billionaire looked rattled. That night, Victor made a call from his penthouse, his voice trembling with rage. Find whoever leaked it, he hissed to his head of security. And make them disappear. But someone was already watching him, a whistleblower named Alex Rivers, a cyber engineer who had once worked for Ethan in the army. Alex had joined Victor's company as part of a contract team and had discovered the secret data laundering months earlier. He'd tried to report it, but his warnings vanished. So he'd gone underground, collecting evidence. When he saw the news about Ethan's arrest, he knew Victor had found his scapegoat. Now, with Sandra's help, Alex agreed to testify, under protection. On the final day of the trial, the courtroom was silent as Alex took the stand. His voice was steady but his hands shook. I worked in Atlas Dynamics' cybersecurity division. Victor Hawthorne ordered me to erase transaction logs connected to foreign contracts. When I refused, he threatened to destroy my career. I backed up everything, emails, memos, payment trails, on a private drive. He turned to Ethan. Captain Cole had nothing to do with it. Victor used his credentials to authorize illegal transfers. I can prove it. He inserted a flash drive into the court's evidence terminal. The screen filled with encrypted messages, Victor's personal emails, including one that read, "Frame Cole. Make it look clean. No loose ends." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Victor went pale. The judge ordered immediate seizure of Atlas Dynamics servers. The prosecution withdrew its case. Ethan was cleared of all charges. As marshals surrounded Victor, the billionaire's arrogance dissolved into panic. You don't know what you're doing. He shouted. You can't touch me. I own this city. But for once, money couldn't save him. When the verdict came, not guilty, Ethan felt his knees weaken. Sandra smiled, eyes glistening. You're free, Captain. Ethan barely heard her. His mind was already on Lily. That night, he walked out of the courthouse to find her waiting on the steps, clutching her little backpack. She ran into his arms, crying. Daddy, they said you were a bad guy. He knelt, holding her tight. No, sweetheart. They just didn't know the truth. News channels erupted with headlines. Billionaire arms tycoon arrested for treason. Delta Force veteran vindicated in historic trial. In the days that followed, the FBI uncovered years of corruption inside Atlas Dynamics. Victor faced charges for espionage, money laundering, and conspiracy. Alex entered witness protection. Sandra was offered a position with the Department of Justice. And Ethan, for the first time in years, could breathe again. Months later, he stood on a quiet hill overlooking Arlington Cemetery, a folded flag under his arm. He visited the grave of his late wife, Sarah. It's over, he whispered. We're free. A breeze stirred the trees, as if she were answering. As Ethan turned to leave, he noticed a man in a dark suit standing nearby, a familiar face from his Delta Force days. Colonel James Rourke. Hell of a fight you put up, Captain, Rourke said, shaking his hand. You did the right thing. Ethan gave a tired smile. Didn't have a choice. Rourke nodded. You know, the agency's starting a new program, protection detail for whistleblowers and intel operatives. We could use someone like you. Ethan looked out at the horizon. He'd sworn off service, but something inside him stirred, the same sense of purpose that once drove him. I'll think about it, he said. As he walked back toward his truck, Lily ran ahead, her laughter echoing through the wind. For the first time in years, the sound didn't hurt, it healed. Justice, he realized, wasn't about vengeance. It was about truth surviving the lies. And this time, the truth had exploded loud enough for the world to hear.